I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting for the town of Saugeen Shores. And again, first order of business item on the agenda is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind you of your responsibility to do so now or when it arises on the agenda. Undeclared. So this evening we do have a motion to make an addition to the agenda, and it's been moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, seconded by Councillor Rich, that the council agenda be amended to add 7.1 motion on the southern property development. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried, so we'll add that. Then the next item on the agenda is adoption of the regular council and special council minutes of July the 9th, and it's been moved by Councillor Matheson and seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt. The council adopts the minutes of the regular council meeting and special council meeting of July the 9th, 2018 as presented. Is there any errors or omissions? Comments? All in favor? That's carried. Next item is Committee of the Whole minutes of July the 9th, 2018, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj. The council will note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of July the 9th, 2018 as presented. Any errors or omissions? Comments? All in favor? That's carried. So the next item on the agenda is the Community Services, Parks and Recreation report from July the 9th, and it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. The Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Community Services, Parks and Recreation report dated July the 9th, 2018, recommending that Council approves the waiving of the facility rental fees for the Grand Fondo Lake Huron fundraising event organized by the Saugeen Memorial Hospital Foundation and the Southampton Coliseum scheduled for August 18th and 19th, 2018. Any questions or comments to this motion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Next item then is a report of the municipal officer committees, and we have a staff report, but I'll read the motion, and if anybody's got any questions, we'll take the report. Has been moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau. The council approves the single source purchase of a Ford F-150 responder police vehicle and the necessary emergency equipment at a cost of $44,000 plus applicable HST. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, could I speak to the
report? Sure, go ahead.
Just for a moment, and more of a clarification. Thank you for your support of this project. But we wrote that the council is authorizing the single sourcing of a vehicle as well as to access some reserve funding. But I need to make it clear that the purchase of police vehicles is a police service board decision, and their operations was decided by the police service board.
Thank you. So the next item then again, there's a staff report, but we'll take it's the Main Street Revitalization Initiative funding, and it's been moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, seconded by Councillor Matheson. The council approves that the Main Street Revitalization Initiative funding application be submitted and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the application. Any questions or comments to this? Start over at Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, then we'll go here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered, is there any time limits on when this funding has to be spent? And I mean, that would sort of impact our consultation, how we move forward. Do we know that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is some timelines. They are very generous. I believe it's 2020, so it's a large window of time. The funding is there. We can't lose it, quite frankly, and I've spoke directly with representatives of the initiative. So ideally we would have had a recommendation to you prior to this. We didn't, but those are a couple of projects that we're looking at, and we will bring something back to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But the intention now, since you do have a fair bit of time, is to do a bit more consultation with the BIAs and hear what their views are. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have not formally spoken with the BIAs. Challenge, of course, is $50,000, and it's not a lot of money, but we certainly will. We did speak with the BIA in Port Elgin specifically about the Wi-Fi, because they had done some work on the Wi-Fi, and they were very excited about that, but we haven't consulted more with the Wi-Fi provider on that.
Councillor Grace? Okay, thank you. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So the next item is 7.1, the one we added to the agenda, and it's motion on the Sutherland property that it's been moved by Councillor Dave Mayette and second by Councillor Grace. The council allocates $150,000 as a placeholder funding to further the development of the former Sutherland property, and that the funding source be the future capital reserve at this time. Any questions on this? No questions? You have a question? Okay. It won't be on the agenda there. This is what we added to the agenda, sorry. Any further? All in favor? Get it over. That's carried. So the next item then is bylaws. This evening we have 4, and the first one is to authorize a Boulevard Care bylaw, and it's been moved by Councillor Dave Mayette, seconded by Councillor Grace. The bylaw 66-2018, being a bylaw to authorize the Boulevard Care bylaw, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of July 2018. Any questions or comments to this motion or bylaw? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question is for the CAO. I did ask Amanda this last time, but just knowing what's in here and what the restrictions are and driving around and seeing that there are probably a number of people who are in violation of this policy, I wanted to review again what is going to happen with those people. Like if there is this going to be a regular bylaw complaint process, or are people going to be notified and saying you've got the wrong size of rocks close to the curb and your driveway's in violation or whatever?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our typical action for bylaw enforcement is complaint-based. You know, that's generally how we're resourced. Sometimes we get people that will submit 100 complaints on a particular item. In these particular things, a somewhat selfish factor, they do impact us and they do impact our operations. I think we'll be more assertive on that where appropriate. Certainly if there's applications that may not be in compliant with the bylaw but aren't that significant, if I can put that qualifier in it, we may not go after everyone, but those that are creating undue risk for the municipality, we would certainly follow up on.
Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and being the mover, obviously I will be supporting this recommendation, and I'm a little bit disappointed that there was nothing added in here that refers to or that references rural properties and the maintenance that takes place in additions, and sometimes elaborate, sometimes more or less. So in rural properties where we call them ditches, not boulevards, but there's quite often people put signs, and I mentioned before mailboxes, but unfortunately didn't make it into here, and I'm just a little bit disappointed in that, but I suppose we will do as we do in the country and police ourselves.
Any further comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item then is to authorize an amendment to the traffic bylaw, and it's been moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that bylaw 67-2018, being a bylaw to authorize the amendment to the traffic bylaw, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of July 2018. Any questions or comments? Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2, and I wonder if we should just do first and second reading tonight, and maybe ask for some follow-up for third reading in the future. And the reason I say that are two things. I wasn't able to really dig into this until later today, so I missed an opportunity to speak to staff. I spoke to the staff at Port Elgin PharmaSave, and they are under the impression, they've been advised by our police department, that the use of mobility scooters, they are defined in the Traffic Act as a pedestrian device, and they must be on the sidewalk. So we to further that thought, they're supposed to be on the sidewalk until there isn't a sidewalk that exists. And then they are supposed to do what a pedestrian is supposed to do, and that's walk against the flow of the traffic so the traffic and the pedestrian can clearly see each other. So we have a short form wording here, fine system set up that says that any motor or power assisted device will not be on a public sidewalk. So these two things are in conflict in my mind. So so they're teaching the users, and they're explaining to the users, and the police are inviting themselves to a twice annual rodeo of mobility scooter users to explain to them that they must be on the sidewalk. So with that in mind, I wondered if we should defer. I'd like the consideration, Mr. Mayor, if you would, to entertain deferring item number 1 of this, or at least going to 2 readings and not 3 readings and having staff come back. The second thing that I'd like to discuss is the use of a self-propelled device on a public sidewalk. So that's a bicycle. And clearly for me, as a parent, now a grandparent, they flood the sidewalks, driving on the sidewalks to Northport School in particular. I'm familiar with that area because of a grandchild in that area, and we do not want them on the road. There are no road lanes for bicycles, and we don't want them on Highway 21 either. Not in my mind, and we would prefer to have, I believe as a community, we would prefer to have our children safe in that location. And I'm sure there are other locations. I'm just giving you an example. Riding out to the Plex on the sidewalk, not on Highway 21. That 4-lane highway has no bicycle lanes. So clearly we should be allowing children in particular, under the age of 14, I would suggest, public school age, we should want them on our sidewalks where we have problems. Where there are problems with pedestrians, like the middle of the downtown core, yes, you get off, you dismount off your bicycle and you walk. Or you use Waterloo Street and Brick Street if you're in Port Elgin, the back streets. And those streets you could be on the road. I can't support this. I mean, I'm just one vote, but I really believe we need to have a different approach with such a busy highway. The expectation shouldn't be that we want our children riding bicycles on a 4-lane Highway 21. Thank you.
I think the clerk would like to speak.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So I have noted those 2 comments. The comments that you're bringing forward are not affected by the amendment, the bylaw that you're passing tonight. So the 2 comments that were made were with respect to section 10.3. Those are in the original bylaw, so those are already in effect. Your amendment tonight has no effect on what's already been passed. The short form wording that was referred to earlier, that also has been approved by the Ministry of Attorney General. Not to say that we can't come back and revisit it, but I want to assure you that the bylaw that's before you tonight has no impact on your 2 comments.
Councillor Grace.
Mayor, if I could just maybe add something in response to Councillor Menage's points, that I sent an email to everybody today related to this bylaw that related to sidewalk use and legal precedents based on an article that I'd read. And Amanda responded that we have a transportation consultant coming in on Wednesday to meet with her, and that she would put those questions forward to him or her. And maybe we could add Councilor Menage questions to her as well for that meeting.
And I thank the clerk for that distinction, because I mean, we've gone through this committee, so the issues that you're talking about are not going to be affected by this amendment. If you wish to bring those back, then by all means get a hold of Amanda and this traffic consultant, and I think that's probably the proper way. You're going to have some professional people that will have all kinds of expertise on these issues that you raise. But I think we need to stick to this particular report here tonight and deal with this.
I think I understand what you're saying to me. What I'm concerned with is, once this has final reading tonight, we could be tapping people on the shoulder and giving them $100 fines for things that, if I'm not understanding it properly, then please explain it.
That's not changing that. We could have done that yesterday. This is not changing that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It was always that way.
It's always that way. So if your issue is that,
So
then
we
I think
still-
you go back to, and this amendment is not dealing with that.
So how would I affect that change?
I think, like I say, go back to Amanda and this consultant, and I know he's going to reach. I suspect they're going to have a number of public meetings, or he was going to have some public meetings for public input. I think that's the way to address it. So we'll go back to the motion then, and does anybody want me to read it again, or just with bylaw? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the bylaw? Opposed? That's carried. So the next item on the agenda is let me see, go back here and find it, is another bylaw, and it is authorize Saugeen Shores official plan amendment for 164 and 158 Albert Street South, and it's been moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, second by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 68-2018, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 11 to the Town of Saugeen Shores official plan and amendment 90-2012 by Weichelt Limited and Sarah Trelford for the lands known municipally as 158 Albert Street and South and 164 Albert Street South, Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of July 2018. Any comments? Councillor Dave Mayap.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And those that were in attendance at our last planning meeting will know that this amendment took on quite a bit of conversation, and there were people in attendance who had concerns over what this was going to do with their current arrangements, and I think it was handled very well. And in fact, subsequent to that meeting, I had an opportunity to speak to one of the people in attendance, and was able to, I think, put their concerns mostly at rest. And what I was able to say, I think, with confidence, and I would like to hear that it's correct, is that the situation that currently exists on that lane is only going to be better and improved with the addition of these lots and the improvements that are made to that road. And there were no services that those residents currently have that were going to be permanently changed or disrupted. And once they heard that in simple terms, I think all of those concerns and tensions really melted away. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dave Mayap. Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item is a zoning bylaw amendment for the same piece of property. It's 164 and 158 Albert Street South, and it's been moved by Councillor Madison, second by Councillor Mike Mayat, that bylaw 69-2018, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 75-2006, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Town of Saugeen Shores, by Weichelt Limited and Sarah Trelford for lands known municipally as 158 Albert Street South and 164 Albert Street South, Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of July 2018. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. The next item is the confirmatory bylaw. So it's been moved by Councillor Minaj and seconded by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber that bylaw 70-2018, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of July 2018. All in favor? That's carried. And it's been moved by Councillor Rich and seconded by Deputy Mayor Charbonneau that this regular council meeting of July the 23rd, 2018 hereby adjourned at 8:07 p.m. All in favor? We're adjourned.